The Build Show Build Boston series is sponsored by Allura Fiber Cement Siding, Mitsubishi Electric Train US, Roseburg, Schuco USA, and Warmboard.
Hey, Build Show Network. Steve Basic Architect out here. We're out here, obviously, Build Show Build Boston site. Places like a beehive today. We got carpenters out here. We got electricians, plasterers, drywallers, excavators. The pool guy is here. Obviously, general contractors out here, clients out here. We got a lot happening out here. But before we get into all of those things that are happening out here, we got a special treat. We got Sean from Brennan Electric. You might have remembered him from the rough-in stage. Well, all that stuff that we talked about rough-in has been installed. So we brought Sean back and we're going to go through the system and talk about it. We have a really cool electrical panel that has some real specialty breakers, switches, outlets. It's a pretty cool scenario here, the whole way the load system is set up in this house. So let's catch up with Sean. We're going to start right at the pole and walk you through the system. So let's get started. Hey, what's up, Sean?
Steve, how you doing?
Thanks for coming out today.
Absolutely.
So, last time we were here, we were standing here talking about what we were going to do, and obviously you did it.
Yep.
Right? So, we have our typical service, comes into the pole, like pretty typical in New England, but then we bring that down. We have a underground box here, and I see two pipes there.
Correct. So the utility company requires us to put this box in just in case if anything happens to the wire up here in the pole. We don't want to have to re-pull this whole thing, so we leave a service loop and then come up the pole, and we can always cut into that and splice here later.
I gotcha. So this is just like a
it's
rough
one of their
disconnect
requirements
kind of thing.
Correct.
From the power company. And just to refresh my memory, we're bringing 400 amps.
400 amps, yep.
Into this house.
Yep.
And for the viewers, you know, some are going to sit there and say, wow, that's a whole lot of power for this house. But in Massachusetts, we're required to develop enough power and the system to be all electric.
Yes.
Whether we choose it to be or not.
Correct.
Right? We could put a gas furnace in, gas hot water heater, but we have to plan for it as being electric.
Yep.
All right. So we got a shop vac out here.
That's right.
I know what you're doing, but these guys.
So currently what we're doing right now is we got to get a string into this pipe, and then we pull in a mule tape so we can get a measurement for the wire. I mean, we put in, I think it was about 230 feet of conduit, but obviously the wire's got to make it up the pole, and then we needed some extra on the other side to get into the meter. So once we get that pull in and we get the measurement, we get the wire ordered up, we can get this pulled in and get a service inspection, and then it's into Eversource to come hook him up.
Yeah, you're making a little fun of me earlier, because I worked as an electrician for a little while, and I did a bunch of these, and the guy, he was an old timer. We used the plugs.
Yep.
And the plugs meaning it was like a styrofoam football almost.
Correct, yeah.
And it had a little eye.
Yep.
That you'd tie the string through, and we basically vacuumed it through.
Yep.
You know, what's interesting is I know a lot of people think that, oh, while you're putting the conduit in, you should just put the wire in.
Yeah, no.
But there's no electrician does that.
No.
They put all the conduit in, they vacuum through a string,
Correct.
however they do it, and then the string, we would tie it to a heavier rope.
Yep.
And then connect the rope to the actual wire, and then pull it. We had a little winch here.
Exactly, that's exactly how we do it. We'll set up a pulley on this pole. We're hoping that this thing comes down, that gravity will make this a nice easy pull for us too.
Gotcha. Now, one of the tricks that the old timer showed me too, that when we used to do it, he used to mix ivory snow in a bucket.
Okay.
And he would grease the wire before it went in the pipe up
they
there.
They now sell a wire lube, so
okay. So it's the same thing.
You got it. We absolutely.
40 years later, they caught on, and somebody figured, hey, we can make this stuff.
Anything in PVC conduit, you should always lube, just because the friction on that conduit against the wire will make it. You'll have a hard time pulling.
And if there's a hard corner, you don't want to wear down any
Correct.
of the wire or anything like that. Now, the wire. Let's talk about the size of the wire we need for this.
So this will be parallel 4/0, so there'll be two sets of 4/0 going in here to give you the 400 amps, because each set's good for 200.
Is this copper or aluminum?
Aluminum.
Aluminum.
Yep.
All right. So why don't we head in there? We can take a look. You got the panels set up. This thing has a pretty different electrical system than what's normal. So we got a lot to talk about inside. So why don't we head inside?
Sounds good.
All right, I know we said we were gonna go inside and talk about the panel, but before we do that, we're up here at the other end of the conduit. So this is the pipe that you saw down in the underground box down there, and you can see we pulled through the string here. So this is the one where you simply just cut, attach a rope through, and you pull the rope through and then pull the cable back.
That's correct.
All right, so we have a whole bunch of other little conduits. What's happening in these systems?
So some of these conduits go down to the pole to bring in your phone and data services, fiber, whatever he plans on using. The larger of the two are going out to his cabana that he's going to have out here with some solar panels on it. So it's for solar, and one of these is going out there as well for some future landscape lighting.
Okay. And then so here, now when let me back up a second. When we were here last time, we talked about our most favorable condition was the back of the house, and then we talked about we had some backups on the side. So obviously the electrical company and the town and everybody finds this a favorable condition.
Correct. They okayed it, you know, as long as we keep the 3 foot of clearance in front of it and this doesn't get obstructed and they can easily get their way back here to read meters. They said they're fine with it. So.
I got you. And then we have our shower there. Now, I noticed the nice crew is here. They have all of their wires in here for the security, but I also noticed the homeowner, we've gone through and you've put in a bunch of soffit lights.
Correct, that is right.
Talk to me about those. Do they need to be a special recessed can if it's outside?
Those are actually indoor and outdoor rated, so they come with a gasket if they're going to use them outside, that you put the gasket in before you snap in. So
I got you. All right, so they're basically interchangeable.
Correct, yep.
And those appear to be 4-inch?
Those are 4-inch with the black trim. That's what he wanted to match the soffit material.
Yep. Gotcha. And the reason we only have 2, obviously, is because we have a shower over there in the doorway.
Correct.
We don't need to be lighting up and highlighting the electrical.
Yeah, they're around this whole perimeter pretty much in the backyard where the pool's going and everything too, though.
All right. Well, now, let's jump down into the basement. We'll talk about panels. We're over here at one of the panels.
Correct.
We have 4 panels in this house.
There's 4 panels total.
3 different locations.
Yep.
This is Dirty Basement 2, I believe.
Yep.
And this, even though it's as large as it is, we're considering this a sub panel. So the service isn't coming in here. This is coming from another panel.
That's correct. Yep.
Right. So talk to me a little bit about the box. Who makes it?
This is a Square D product, Schneider Electric.
Okay.
And you're looking at this is a 200 amp main breaker panel. We are not feeding it with 200 amps though, but we have the capability of putting 54 circuits in here, and we're comfortable enough that we're going to put this on 125 amp breaker, so that'll be the true protection. I always like to go main breaker. This could have just been what they call a main lug.
Okay.
But I'd rather my guys, if they were going to come work on this, if it wasn't critical to not shut something off, shut this off and work in a safe manner, so that this would be the only live components and nothing down here when we're playing around in here would be live components.
And so the service wire, it's always 3 wires.
Correct.
Right? There's the hot, the neutral, and then the grounding wire. Right.
So it's 3 wires in, then you go to a 4 wire because this panel has to be isolated, the grounds and the neutrals, because it's a sub panel. So as you can see, these are the neutral buses, and they're on this isolated back, where the ground bar is actually grounded to the panel box.
And the neutral buses, those are usually the white wire.
Correct, yep.
Right? The black wire is the hot wire.
Yep.
I only get electrocuted if I touch both at the same time.
True.
Right? I
Yep.
can touch either or, never both.
Yes.
And then obviously the ground wire, and I mean, I gotta say, I don't know if this was you or who did it, but meticulous work. You know, one of the things about electricians that you find is there's a few of them out there that I would call gypsies or hacks if I had to, but most of the time, electricians really pride themselves on how nice the panel looks, how nice all the wires coming in. Now, for you guys watching it, you see all these wires come in and you're probably sitting there and saying, okay, how the hell does he sort that out? But what you don't see is, you don't see over at the end here where each one of those wires, they just trace it back here before they hook it up. And so these are all labeled and tied back
Correct.
to where you're going. Now, in an earlier conversation, you were saying this panel predominantly is the kitchen.
Correct. Kitchen, I believe on this, it was mainly this side of the house to save on some wire lengths. The laundry room's in here as well as the plant room. Yes. And the reason why none of these are landed now is these newer panels they come out with, This is called a plug-on neutral panel. So this bus bar here is actually attached to the neutrals as well. So the newer breakers, pretty much everything in a home now has to be ground fault or arc fault protected. So on the newer style breakers, they clip to this bus as well, and the neutral wire actually has to land on the breaker itself.
Gotcha.
So that's why we got all the grounds already. This panel is a work in progress. We just got to install the breakers.
And we'll see that because we haven't.
We started installing on the main
We started
panels, yes.
installing some of the breakers, so
Yep.
we could talk about the whole loading system and how that's all set up. But this is your basic setup for
Correct.
one panel here. So let's head on over there and we'll talk some breakers.
Sounds good.
All right, Sean. So we're over here. We have the two main panels.
That's correct. Yep.
Right, the one that we were just talking about over there, we talked about that being the sub panel. So one of these panels is feeding that panel.
Right. Yep.
Now, this house has a 400 amp service, just to be clear. And a lot of that is just due to the fact that everything has to be electrical here.
Yep.
Right. But these two panels have very specific tasks at hand.
Correct.
We split up both. So why don't we talk about this one first?
So, I mean, they're basically coming from the street. You got a 200 amp, a 200 amp. The solar in this house, if he was to lose power, and I only know enough about this to be dangerous, but the batteries can only handle backing up 200 amps, not the full 400.
Gotcha.
So we're breaking this up in conversations with the owner on, what is critical to be backed up and what is not so critical. What can he live without if he has?
Right. And so when you mention critical, it's like this panel is the things I need to sustain the house.
Correct.
If we lose power and I have to run it off battery. So things like the refrigerator, the heating system, hot water, that
Some
kind of
general
stuff.
lighting.
Luxury stuff, that goes on this panel, and we would just simply lose that should we lose power. Now, we have a warm board radiant heating system.
Yep.
I believe that one is part of the street panel here.
Correct.
Right.
And the heat pump system would be part of this panel over
The
here.
heat pump here, so even though we're using the radiant floor heating for our heating system, in the occasion where we lose power, we have to jump to batteries, the radiant floor system would basically just shut down and our Mitsubishi systems would go cooling and heating.
Yes.
If we needed it, and those would get run off of the panel here. Now, I notice we have these two large breakers here. Talk to,
So these are surge protective devices. There'll be one in each panel. There'll actually be one in the sub panel over there and the sub panel in the garage, which we have not seen. Purpose of this, just as they say, if you have a surge, it will be protected by this and you won't lose any electronics or anything like that within the home.
Okay, and that's their intent, not their guarantee.
Correct.
Just to be clear.
There's some fine print from some of these. I mean, luckily, I don't know, how often does it really happen? But sometimes people deal with it a lot. I have changed one of these that has protected before, so I've seen it work.
They have worked. Now, the house here has a pretty specific system in it.
Correct.
Right, in that it's by Schneider Electric, and it is a load path system.
Yes.
Right, so what's really interesting is, anywhere in this house, whether it's, let's just, I'm gonna throw a number, say we have 165 outlets there. I can go on to my Wiser app, I believe it's called, right? On my phone, on vacation somewhere, and I can shut off any 5 or 6 outlets.
That's correct, yep.
And they can do the same with lighting.
With lighting as well. So this home, they are not smart breakers, but they'll be smart devices. So these are just your typical Schneider Electric square DQO breakers. The Wiser unit gets plugged into these panels. Simply clip these around the feeds, and then there's another component that hooks to a 240 breaker, so you're monitoring all phases of the panel. And then the app, I've never used this specific product, so I haven't seen the app in action, but I've read up on it, and basically just what you said, you can control any smart device in this home through the app.
And so if we lose power, then I have the ability, obviously, to shut down certain circuits, certain outlets, lighting, so somebody doesn't turn those on by accident and drain power that I might otherwise need for a critical thing like the refrigerator or heating system.
That's right.
Et cetera. Right. The breakers, I think you grabbed one there. We could talk about that bus system.
So that's what I was saying. So typically this right here, this component on the breaker is so this snaps into your bus bar, giving it power. And then this little bus here snaps into the neutral bar. And that's what gives you the connection to the neutral. So before they came out with these, you used to have all the mess of the pigtails coming off the arc faults when they were first invented. So this is definitely a nice thing, especially for somebody that likes to keep their work neat and clean.
All right. Well, that pretty much sums up how we get power into the house.
Yep.
When we jump upstairs, we'll grab an outlet and a light switch. Again, I believe those are Schneider light switches,
Schneider,
because they all have to be these smart switches, smart outlets.
Correct.
That are tuned to have the ability to being shut off, etc. Now, each one of them, we could talk about it up there, but each one of them has a QR code that you have to.
It does. It has a QR code, so it's not. We can't just run around here installing plugs and switches like you would on a typical finish. We actually need to take the QR from the device, and I believe it comes with a little like a pamphlet. So we'll probably stack them all up in a binder. I'll put that on the owner's responsibility not to lose that, and then they can set it up with the app once they get this.
But you have to record each one of those QR codes to the location, so the
Yes.
homeowner knows that this QR code is to the the outlet behind my bed.
Right. Yep.
In my bedroom. So, all right, why don't we go upstairs? We can run through, and I can get a quick class on installing an outlet and a switch. We could talk about those a little further, and then we'll wrap up.
Sounds good.
All right. All right, so we jumped upstairs. Sean's up here. We're now joined with Ekthor, better known as Thor. And you better say it nicely, because if Thor stands up, you know what I mean. But one of the cool things about what we're doing here, if you watch the interior trim video that we just posted, it was one of the more recent ones there. We had talked about the baseboard and how we put all of the outlets in there, and it's a 3/4 inch baseboard. But in proper planning, Sean and the guys at Brennan, they put in all adjustable boxes. So with that adjustment, you basically, you're just turning a screw there, right, Thor? And that thing is riding out on a screw so that we get the proper depth at the time of baseboard installation. So we didn't do it on the above walls here because we knew those were all fixed drywall.
Yep.
But down there, where you don't know whether it's an 11/16 or a true 3/4.
Yep.
And I bet these, I think we have those all where we have tile backsplash.
Yeah, we usually use those. These boxes can adjust up to, I believe, 1.5 inches, maybe 1.25 inches, but anywhere where, baseboard for sure. In bathrooms, kitchens, where they might be tile, we use them as well.
Gotcha. So you can see that got driven out all the way. Now it's flush condition. So what we're going to do is, electricians call it making up a box or completing the box. I don't know what you guys call it, but basically installing the outlets, right?
Yep.
So if we take one of the outlets.
So here we got, again, the Square D. This is a smart, it's a Wi-Fi enabled outlet. So these are, as we were speaking of downstairs, these outlets come with the barcode in the box. And within the barcode, it comes with this little piece of paper here that we got to fill out. You stick the barcode on it. You can check off where it is. We'll probably write a description. And this is where that Wiser system, the homeowner here wants to dial it down to, he wants to know what this individual outlet is actually using for power, and he can see that on the app. So whether it's a laptop or a table lamp, he'll know what is causing the draw.
And I mean, not for nothing, the whole world of building is changing. I mean, this probably adds a day to just finishing, just running around. And
yeah, it's going to take a little time because, we can't be losing these things.
Now, this is just your standard 3 screw, right? We have the hot, the neutral,
and the ground.
And the ground, and the ground is always the green one. I know that. And then obviously we have the screws here. They're held by a little thing there so you don't lose the screw. And then you have these little tabs that, I know some guys bend them in, but we have the adjustable box so we don't have to make that adjustment. But yeah, this is not your standard outlet.
No, and they're definitely, a standard outlet is probably only half the depth, but because this has got the Wi-Fi capability, this is almost like the size of a GFI. So
yeah, what about the price of this versus a regular outlet? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't used this. I would say 2 to 3 times. You're probably looking at over $20 an outlet for sure.
Yeah. So.
And he's got switches. We're doing the same thing. So he's got Wi-Fi enabled switches. Pretty cool feature. There's lighting control systems out there you can use. So kind of similar, but he can also load shed certain lights. So as we talked about downstairs, lighting with LED nowadays doesn't really draw much at all.
Right.
So we pretty much put every light in this house on the backup panels. with the intent that if we were starting to overload, we could shut the lights off
Shut
in
the
the
lights
system.
off there into the panel.
Correct.
So that's like a backup to the backup panel.
True. Yep.
Right. Now,
That would be the load shedding with the Wiser unit, so he can manage what he can actually use during a power outage.
gotcha. It's amazing, you know, in the years that I've been doing this, just how far we've come. It's like
yeah.
now our phone can talk to every outlet in the
Yep.
house, which is crazy. Now, Thor, we're going to put you to the test, buddy. Sean said, you know, I said, you're going to put an outlet in. He said, no, I'm going to have my man Thor do it because he said, you're the best, the quickest, and it is the neatest install. So have at it, buddy. We'll stand around and watch you put this outlet in. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it. You notice that he had to pull the wires out, obviously, to work it. But, you know, one of the things that you see electricians do, they tuck those wires in really deep. And that's because as the drywaller goes and he does his little zip router, the last thing you want to do is come out here and see your wire all shredded up.
Correct.
Right?
Never a good thing.
You want to tuck those in and protect it as much as you possibly can. Now these, I noticed, you know, the older outlets, you'd make a little fish hook, you'd wrap it around the screw, you always wrap it around in the direction it tightens.
Right.
Right, I learned that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then, but this one here, you just basically strip the wire and plug it in.
Yeah, so they got the clamp connections, pretty similar, like I was saying, to a GFI outlet, same style. I mean,
Gotcha.
these switches look like they're very similar to that, where it's just this clamp. They got the slot to slide it in. Now, it's not like backstabbing for some of you people that are going to think that. It's a rated clamp to clamp the wire down.
Gotcha. So you stick the wire, it goes in one of those holes.
Correct,
and, then
and this
you
is a
just screw
compression
that.
clamp. Yep.
And that's basically taking that, I'm assuming that's probably a brass plate there? Or,
Yes.
and that squeezes that brass plate against the wire.
That's correct,
And
yep.
that's what's making the physical connection there.
Yep.
What about the ground? Oh, the ground is sitting inside there and
Yes.
it's doing the same thing.
And these switches, now that we're looking at it again, I haven't used these, but these can be both used for a single pole location, like in here, where you come in, there's two switches here, one is for the center light, one is for the recess. But these are also capable of being used in a three-way, so like a hallway, where we're switching lights from both sides of the hallway. So.
Let's talk a little bit about that because, you know, a lot of people, there are a lot of people watching this video that come in, they turn on a switch and magic happens.
Yep.
And they don't quite understand it. But, you know, you talked quickly about, you know, single pole, three-way, and then there's also a four-way switch.
Yes.
So a single pole it has on and off.
That's
That's
right.
it. I turn it on, it turns the light on. I turn it off, it turns the light off.
Right.
But if I'm in, say, the living room where I come in from the garage, I can turn it on here, walk across the room and turn it off.
Correct. So when you want to switch from multiple locations, you'll get into just a three-way, or you can throw in a four-way, pretty much as many as you want.
So the four-way is when you're beyond two locations.
Exactly,
So 3 and above. So I always thought it was interesting that they call it a three-way, but it's switched from 2 locations.
It's true, yes.
And then a four-way is switched from 3 locations or more.
Yes.
And that's when you get into where up doesn't necessarily mean on anymore.
That's true,
Because
yep.
it just means wherever I'm at, the light is on or off.
Yep.
Thor, I gotta tell you, man, that is probably one of the neatest installs I've ever seen, man. You wanna have at it and hit the switch for us? But yeah, and it's interesting. And so back in the day when I did it, we called it the Traveler.
Yep, that's what
which
they're
is the
called
three-wire.
still, yes.
Still calling it the Traveler.
Yep.
And that's just ping pongs back and forth depending on the position of the switch.
Correct.
In a three-way
Yep.
setup or a four-way setup. So yeah, that just simply gets pushed in and clamped down.
Yep.
It's it's pretty amazing how far this system has come, and I can only imagine there's going to be a day where we're not running wires anymore.
Yeah.
You're just
Hopefully
putting
that day
outlets
doesn't
in
come when
and-
I'm still here.
Yeah. No, you're still going to need electricians.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just all of these wires and literally thousands of feet of wire.
Yeah.
Things are just going to become, it's going to move through.
Yeah, it's
the-
already, I mean, there's a lot of systems out there now that, you wire one switch, or you just bring 120 to a switch and all your loads are down by the panel, and all the other switches throughout the house are just RF frequency talking to each other. So it's already coming that way, but they're expensive products still, so it's not used on a daily basis.
Yeah, but as they become more of a commodities type item,
Correct.
that price will come down.
Yep.
And we'll see more and more of it. So, and there you have it. Well, can't say enough. Thank you, Thor. You did a beautiful job, man. I think everybody that's watching this video is saying Thor's the man when it comes to it. Sean, thank you. Walking us through the whole system.
Yep.
Place looks great. We'll get it all finished wiring up, and then maybe we'll just take a quick walk later in the episodes, and we'll talk about, you know, hanging a light or two, and
all right,
catch
great.
up then. So
Thank you.
thank
Appreciate
you for your time.
it. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, there you have it, Build Show. Right. We had our master electrician Sean out here from Brennan Electric, and my new friend Thor. I mean, who wouldn't want this guy as a friend, right? So you want Thor to be on your side, not on the opposing side. But there you have it. You know, electrical systems. You can see how they're coming of age and just the changes that are being made. I mean, one of the exciting things about this industry is that it's made up of a whole subset of sub-industries, right? Electrical, plumbing, heating, cooling, radiant flooring, and all of these companies are just developing one after another new systems. So it's real exciting to see where this industry is going to go. But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed that. Why don't we jump outside, and I promised you a little progress walk. We got a lot of people working here. I think it's worth maybe just doing a really quick progress walk, and we'll talk about what's happening out there. So let's head on outside. Hey, Steve Basic Architect here. So we're in for a treat today. Got Glenn here from GDK. Now, GDK is in charge of all the really cool stuff, right? So I don't want to take your thunder. So Glenn, why don't you tell us a little bit about GDK? You're the owner.
I am.
And been in business?
Since 95.
Since 95. And what are we in charge of here?
So basically, what we try to do with all the new facilities and applications that are in houses today, we try to manage that, and we manage it through lighting control, which includes lights and shades, HVAC, security, audio, video, and network. So in the realm of today's parlance, we're the IoT company, the Internet of Things. Anything that talks to the internet, we make sure that it's connected properly and you know how to use it.
So you're the guy I call when I can't get a good connection on my computer. You're the guy I should be swearing at.
That's right. I'll give you my
Not
number
Comcast.
at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. Feel free.
Okay. Because I've always been wondering who's that person to call.
Yeah.
So you're the guy. All right. So basically everything that's not a light switch or a hard wire power, you're in charge.
Correct. All the low voltage, the category 6 wiring, the low voltage wiring to the shades, the low voltage wiring to the cameras,
Speakers,
TVs,
audiovisual,
yeah.
computer, all that cool
the
stuff.
toy department.
All right. So why don't we, we can look up at the ceiling here. I think probably half of the stuff up here is yours. Right?
A good portion of it, yeah.
Or Nice.
Nice.
Who's the
Exactly.
company that
I'm just the guy putting it in.
you're putting it in, and Nice is the actual manufacturer of all the components and such that we're putting in. So when we see a big black ring like that with the wire hanging through it, that's for a
speaker.
That's for a speaker. So we can see we have those spread out and around here. Now your guys were somewhat ingenious. And we had the air barrier up here. We tested that out. We came in at 1.0. We're still going to do a little better than that. But they then had to cut in the hole for the speaker. So they actually took some of the Sega Myrex and made a little top hat here.
Right.
And then they took the section of Myrex and made a patch where they cut it in, but they saved it until it was up just before they were going to put this in, so that when they cut that and push this up, they were basically just displacing the insulation that had already been installed there. And then they basically just taped that seam off to maintain, one of my favorite words, continuity, in our air barrier there. And also, I think I'm looking for one over here, we actually have the wires coming out. Now, these are for all of the shading devices.
That's correct. That's the control and the power for the motors for the shades.
And so those just pop through. and then we have a attached product that'll go on the wall, and these will obviously get cut back power that. And then that all gets tuned into one whole house system.
So, right. So the Elan control platform is a platform that we use, and Elan is a nice brand. And what it allows us to do is connect multiple disciplines to a single app. So think of it, rather than opening up an app for each thing on your phone, you have one app that controls all the apps. So we call it an app. And the Elan control platform...
Master app.
Right. Well, the Elan control platform will allow us to not only control all the disciplines within the house, but we can also set up timed events. So at different times of the year, say it's in the wintertime and the sun goes down at 4:30, the shades are going to come down or go up at a different time than in the summertime when they move at 8 o'clock. And as the homeowner, you don't need to set that. That's set automatically depending on the geographical location of the house and the time of year. So all of that is all automatic and customizable based on where the sun is at particular times.
I actually have a short story, if you can believe it, on that scared the hell out of me. I was in Europe staying in a passive house, and all the shades, they were mechanical shades on the outside, louvers. And I was sleeping, and then next thing you know, it's like I hear these clicks, and I hear, and like everything is opening up. It scared the heck out of me. Like I didn't know what was going on, but the house was fully automated. And it's like the shades just opened at a specific time in the morning, and they brought in the day.
Well, the nice thing with nice shades is you won't hear that because they're almost perfectly quiet motors.
Perfectly
They're
quiet.
Terrific.
But we can time all of these so that I can just say, hey, at 7 o'clock, I want all my shades up.
So many of my clients will get their teenage kids or their college-age kids to get out of bed when they open up the shades.
Yeah, I need one of
in
these
their
for my
room.
son. That is perfect. I could have just
7:30, time to get to work.
7:30, like 6:30. I could set that and have it go up and hopefully get into some kind of lock position.
Sure.
Where it can never be closed
Put a password
again.
in. Yeah.
All right. So your guys will come through later. Obviously, we got to get this boarded, and then we'll come through, and we'd love to have you back. We can talk through all of the finishes, and you can show us the app and how all of this works.
Happy to. This is a fun project.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. We're going to get some board up here. We'll have Glenn back, and we'll let the house do its thing. All right. So we're inside. We talked about, the electrical system, bringing it in from the street. But as you know, this is a zero energy house, which means that we have solar panels. So yes, our power is coming down from the sun. So as you can see behind me, guess what? We got solar, baby. So we got Marco here from Enphase. We're going to talk a little bit about that system. So let's catch up with Marco. All right, so we're outside. Marco.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Marco from Enphase.
Yes, Enphase Energy.
All right, and Enphase does? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, we're in home energy management solutions company. So started out with creating the microinverter, which is a inverter for solar electric systems to convert DC to AC and then interconnect those systems. We now offer a breadth of energy management solutions, including batteries, grid-tied batteries for backup, just for grid-tied applications, as well as EVSE.
And that's what we're doing here.
That's what we're doing in this application. That's correct, yep.
So you can see we have our panels up there.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about those panels.
Yep, those panels are REC 405 DC. So there's 28 of them, and we've got 22 kW DC and then 17 kW AC. Yep. So it's converted right on the roof onto AC.
Gotcha. And it gets converted.
We're using one of these microinverters. So this is the technology that Enphase pioneered and brought to market in high reliability and high volume. And what we do with this is this gets mounted underneath the module, and then the module plugs in DC and this converts to AC. So there's a lot of benefits, partial shading or temperature differentials within the array. Allow basically each module to produce the maximum amount of energy that can be produced using a microinverter.
And every one of those panels has a microinverter attached to it.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, not only do we have that, but on this lower roof of the owner's suite, we've also have some additional panels. I know you talked about this being 22 DC, 17 AC, but if we combine the two, we're somewhere around 35 DC
Correct.
and 25 AC.
Correct, yeah. So the total system size is 25 AC. There's a couple things you just have to consider when you interconnect with the utility to be able to just stay within their rules, and when it's easy permitting, and you know, especially with electrified home like this, you want to start increasing your PV system size to match the amount of electricity used and offset that.
Gotcha. And these panels, they're probably somewhere in like a 39 by 60 inch range.
Yeah,
or something like
that's
that.
correct, yeah.
They're put on a modular system. I was able to grab a mock-up here out of the garage. It's basically just showing you the simple compression clip that gets attached. It gets screwed in on the side here, so basically it's biting that double hem there, and then we have the screws here where the modular strut system then attaches to the standing seam metal roof system there. And then you can see you get a nice simple grid. For those of you that have been following along, this garage is oriented perfectly south. I mean, you can see my shadow is pretty much straight back, where it's probably like 12:30 in the afternoon right now. So we're just a little bit beyond. And then all of that power, it gets delivered to the batteries as AC power.
That's correct, yeah, all AC off the roof. So there's some benefits. Traditional systems used high voltage DC, so there was additional safety requirements needed to manage that. But this is all an AC, so 240 volts, everything that's same voltage distributed throughout the home electric system.
Right. And then that goes to batteries in the garage.
Correct.
Those batteries are connected to the panel that was on the right. If you saw earlier when I was talking with Sean, we had the backup electrical panel there. That directly gets connected to your batteries.
Correct, yep.
So,
yep.
All right. Any parting words on?
No, I mean, it's a great opportunity right now. It's never too late, never too early to install solar. You know, it's one of the cheapest electric sources, and you know, there's lots of options, and yeah.
So before we go, because I know when this gets posted, there's going to be people out there that are throwing it, because I've done solar before,
Yep.
very successfully. Tell me if I'm saying something wrong here, but you know, we're up here in New England, Massachusetts. It's one of the highest electric rates in the country.
Yep.
I think I said it on a presentation, good friend Ross Trathui, I think we were either number 2 or number 3, like behind Hawaii, and I think New York is the other one. We make up the top 3. Hawaii is obviously, for obvious reasons, the most expensive, right? But we're right there. So when I get somebody from a place that's, you know, Alabama, where you're paying 8 cents a kilowatt hour, and you're sitting there saying, you're never going to make your money back on that, it's a dumb idea. I mean, we're probably somewhere, what, maybe 26, 28 cents a kilowatt hour here?
It's somewhere in that range currently,
Yeah,
yes.
so we're in the high 20s. We're not down at this 8 or 9 cents like that you'd find in the southern United States, or the Northwestern, where they have a lot of hydropower and they're at 8 or 10 cents.
Sure.
You know, we're almost 3 times those numbers here, as well as we have really good incentives locally to send this stuff back into the grid. So we're going to charge our batteries, but all of this is also grid tied.
Correct.
Right? So if our battery's at our 100%, we bypass the battery,
That's right.
send it back in and sell it.
Yes.
Basically, we become an energy producer.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, and there's, so, you know, as far as selling to the grid, there's the, you know, sending the excess solar that's not consumed on site or stored back to the grid. You offset that, generally called net metering.
Yep.
So that, you know, essentially gives you a credit for what you export, and then, you know, overall over the year, it's, you know, your bill kind of balances out. And as far as the battery, you now also have programs that incentivize actually dispatching the batteries on high peak demand periods for the utility to actually have them buy that energy. So there's some additional incentives.
So you become basically a sub power plant.
That's
for
correct,
the
yeah,
utility
yeah,
company.
definitely. It's very empowering. When you talk about locations with low energy rates from the utility, you know, in that scenario, the system will still may have a little bit longer payback period. However, you know, these systems are designed with 25-year warranties. So you have, you know, you're able to make that payback. Additionally, then utility rates do increase over time, and there are federal incentives that you can take advantage to help with that, bringing in that return of investment.
But here in
as
New
well.
England, I mean, do we have a number? I mean, if I had to guess, I'm saying we're probably somewhere between 4.5, 5.5, 6 years.
Yeah, so
on payback on
yeah,
the
it's
system?
somewhere in that range, and yeah, so it's definitely worth investing.
Yeah, so if we're at a 25-year warranty, we're barely through 20% of the warranty, and the system is paid for itself.
Exactly, yep. And then they're on, you're just saving electricity.
And they're on, I'm at zero energy.
That's
with
right.
No worries.
Yep.
And we actually have car chargers, so it's not only powering the house, it is also going to be powering the vehicles.
Correct,
We have
yeah.
the car chargers in
Exactly.
there. So basically, the net zero is kind of, I always say it's kind of net zero plus, that it's not only the house, now it's your lifestyle. You're driving your car, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah,
anyways, well,
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
thank you for coming out.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure
Yeah, always
to
happy
talk
to
about.
talk.
Does Enphase have anything in the near future that you could tease us about?
Yeah, so we're looking at, we just launched our latest battery that will be installed here. We're looking at next generations. We have a connected EVSE, so that kind of brings in the...
EVSE?
Yeah,
Even I don't know what that means,
yeah,
man. Help me out.
so EV service equipment, essentially a connected charger.
Okay.
So then you can actually see in the same app that you're viewing the home energy, solar production, consumption, battery performance. You can see your electric vehicle. You could schedule electric vehicle charging in that as well. So there's a lot of home energy management solutions coming.
Gotcha. Yeah, so like I mentioned
All right.
earlier in there, all these kind of subset manufacturers are all working hard on their innovations, and this stuff just keeps coming and getting inserted to the industry. So thank you, Marco.
All right.
Why don't we
Thank
do a quick trip around, and I'll show you what kind of progress we're making inside and out. So let's take a quick tour. Hopefully you enjoyed that. We got to talk to the electrician. We got to talk to the solar guys. We're bringing in power from the street. We're bringing in power from, I don't know, however many million miles away the sun is. But beautiful sunny day here, fall day in New England. Said, like I promised before I left, I said, well, hey, we'll do a quick walk around. You can see a lot of things are happening out here. We got the zip system rain screen going on. We got a bunch of our Allura siding up. We'll take a walk around and see that. You can see here we have all of our piers. These are precast concrete piers. These are for our deck system here that then comes down to a patio, and you can see we actually had the pool guy here today. So we've outlined the location of the pool. That's going to get dug next week. But back to the siding, again, we have our zip system rain screen. And for those of you not familiar, it's a Huber Engineered Woods product, right? If I flip this around the backside, you can see it's just a little wire, coated wire mesh. It's in that grid pattern. And then it has a highly permeable paper here, so it allows drying. But when you put the siding on there, we now have that ventilated airspace that water can go down. The sheathing could dry if it wants. The beauty of having this paper face towards the outside is that if I was to do, say, a stucco system or a veneered stone system, I would put that lath on the outside, and this paper would keep that grid system from getting all mucked up and loaded up with whatever mortar or thin set that we're using there to set our stone and or stucco on it. So let's take a quick walk around. You can see we have some areas here, but we have some areas around front and around the other side there that are just spectacular. So let's go see some of that Allura siding getting installed. So come on along. All right, so we're at the front of the house. You can see here we have some of the siding going up. We got our zip rain screen system here. We just talked about that out back. But you can see here we're using the Allura product. It's a pre-finished fiber cement board. And you can see here we're using it at a 6-inch exposure and a 4-inch exposure. Now these are pre-finished. This is the iron ore color, and this is their olive color. Now remember, early on, way back when I was talking about kind of the partie for this house, it was set up as kind of a village of buildings, right? So that every mast kind of has its own siding. So you can see we have the iron ore here, which is the main body, and then the connector piece here where we have the green. The stuff that isn't here that's going to be an acre. It's going to be like a very natural oaky color stained. And then you can see here in that inside corner, we again switch to that iron ore here to set up the garage. So we have the upper garage, which is that olive color, the lower garage here, which is the iron ore, and then my favorite elevation is around the corner. So let's go check that out, and we'll wrap up there. All right, so as you can see here, because of that long monoslope that we had in there for the solar panels, it makes for some large walls. Now, we have the benefit here of basically having the 4 garage doors, but you can see here that pre-finished siding, just absolutely spectacular. We're using the Allura trim product around the garage doors. That's in that iron ore color to match the iron ore siding and the anthracite gray of our Schuco USA windows that we have on here. But you know, in this large mass, that 4-inch olive is just absolutely spectacular. And then you can see behind me where we have that small appendage of the 4th bay where we did that in the iron ore. So just really beautiful looking stuff coming to life here. We got a little bit more to do, but we'll pick up, you know, on the progress from here on out. The videos, we have a lot of things going on, so, you know, stay tuned. We'll catch up with all of those little tidbits. We'll knit them together, and we'll bring this project to a close here in a couple months. So I'm really looking forward to it. Everything that we're doing from here on out is stuff that we're going to see or touch every day for the life of the house. So until next time, Steve Basic Architect out here at Build Show Build Boston.